Hi everyone, it's Allison here again from the Craigleith Heritage Depot in the Blue Mountains Public Library, and this is our second video in our Friday 1 p.m. Video series. Today is a talk and sketch with a focus on Leonard Shore, and I'll start off by asking, how often have you looked at rolling hills or mountains in the distance, maybe our own Blue Mountains here, and thought, how beautiful or awesome is that? So more on that soon, but first just a refresher that last week we had our museum show and tell with a focus on Leonard Shore, whose bust is beside me, behind me here, and we had a sneak peek at different materials from the collection that are about his life and his family, and I encourage you to check out last week's video to learn more about Leonard, as well as the online exhibit called Leonard E. Shore, and the link to that exhibit is in the description. So today we are going to get inspired by Leonard and make our own artwork, kind of like this. And before we get started, you will need 2 pieces of paper, roughly similar size, and ideally watercolor paper or media paper that's a bit thicker and absorbent, but just use what you have if not. This is kind of the media paper that I'm using. You'll also need a paintbrush and watercolor paint. And if you don't have watercolors, you could use watered down acrylic paint or tempera paint. You would also need a cup of water, and you may also want a pencil, a small rag, a pair of scissors, and painter's tape or masking tape if you have it, but optional. And just a reminder that Leonard Eldon Shore was an architect who grew up in the former Collingwood Township, and he's remembered here at the Leonard Shore Library, part of the Blue Mountains Public Library. And Leonard went to school at University of Toronto, School of Architecture, and he graduated in 1928. And while at school, he created architectural drawings for his courses, such as this one. And this is a copy for presentation purposes only, so the actual one is quite a bit larger in real life. So this is a suburban residence. This is a close-up of that, and you can admire his awesome trees there. And again, that same one, and I don't know if you can see it there, but his drawings are highly detailed. Every little brick, every bit of lettering has some kind of detail added to it. And he also did one for a steamship office, a little bit hard to see there, but you can see that there are these more detailed drawings within the larger architectural drawing. And close-ups of those, we have a mountainscape, sort of a globe-inspired drawing as well, and a couple of other ones there. And it is these little mountainscapes that are going to inspire us today with our artwork. So first we'll lay out our paper down, and today we'll go with a portrait orientation, but you could do it the other direction, a landscape if you wanted to. And if you do have some tape, then we'll lightly place it around the edges of the paper to make a clean border, and it just makes it look extra nice when it's all done. You don't have to do this again, and we will take it off when we're all done. And the most important thing to remember when you're placing this down is to give it a good seal right on the inside. And you can choose how wide to make your border, but I'll just go with roughly the width of the tape itself. And next we will take our second piece of paper, and we want to make sure it's at least as wide as the inside canvas part here, where we'll be painting. I actually chose to cut mine in half, and just to save some paper, so I've got this size here, and we're going to take our fingers like this and rip, rip, rip. You can make valleys and peaks or more gentle slopes. So this side I'll make more gentle slopes, maybe more like the Blue Mountains. And on this side, I'll channel the Rockies and make some deeper mountains and valleys here. And this gives us a couple of options to work with here. And just a note about colors, I'm going to show you how to do this with one color, but you could use whatever colors you want really. And in this example here, I started with kind of a purple and moved to red. This one here, I started again with sort of a reddy purple, moved to blue, and then greens. So you can be as creative as you like. And if we look at Leonard Shore's watercolor with the painting that you saw of the hills last week, you can see that he starts with a darker blue here and moves to a lighter blue and adds more water as he goes back. Next, we're going to place the torn paper about a quarter of the way up the paper, set it on top, dip our brush in the water, and pick up our watercolor paint. I'm going to start with a dark color in the foreground, or the part that looks closest to us. And we want to make sure that we're moving the brush down or sideways and not up, because we don't want to get it underneath the paper, the torn paper. And carefully lift it up. I'm going to flip it around. This time I will add a little bit more water to the color, which will lighten it. And I'll carefully go around the hills that I've just created because they're still wet. Carefully lift up, flip it around again, might move it over slightly here just to create some bit of different interest. Going to add more water this time. Without getting it too wet. Might have to put your brush on a rag or a towel to get a little bit of the excess water out. Again, I'm trying to focus on brushing down. And carefully around that last ridge. Lift up. And I think I'll do one more here. See how light that one is. If you do end up with a fair amount of water, just try to spread it out across the paper as much as you can. Careful lift up. So it looks like we now have mountains that are, or hillsides that are fading into the background, maybe into the mist. If you want, you could add an even lighter sky, or maybe you'd want to make it a sunset. You could add some pinks or oranges. I'm going to add a few clouds in my sky. So I'll just make space for the white there and then move around them with the paintbrush. And if you wanted to, you could even add a little tree if it's not too wet. If it's not too wet up here. Let's see. I'll use the darkest blue that I can get. Make sure it's not too wet. And just make a little tree here by making the trunk first. Let's start at the top, do little dabs of color all the way down, making it wider and wider. And there we have it. You can make yours as unique as you like. And when we're all done, normally you'd want to let this dry a little bit longer, but for the sake of showing you, you can peel off your tape. I always find this part very satisfying. And the mountain scape is revealed. You could sign your name, turn it into a card, or frame it if you wanted to. And there we go. So thank you for joining me today for this Leonard Shore inspired mountain painting, and I encourage you to share your pictures of your mountainscapes in the comments for everyone to see and enjoy. It would be awesome to see those. And join me next week when we will be doing a museum show and tell with world famous illustrator Walter Trier, artifacts from his life. And he has a tie to the Blue Mountains, which you will be interested to hear about. So take care, everybody, and bye.